weirds me out that the album art says "Bury Me at Makeout," 2 separate words, Creek, but the official name of the album is Makeout, 1 word.
Well, it's a long tradition of putting spaces in the middle of Simpsons references after Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, fair point.
What's the Killing Tree song is 1 word as well, right?
I believe it is, yeah. I was looking at my CD shelf like I actually own that thing. I've just considered buying it for $25 off Discogs many times and haven't pulled the trigger.
Oh, there. Oh, it's the title.
It's the title of it's the title of the like demo EP.
They actually,
thing.
I was looking at song titles. They split the difference and put a dash in the middle.
Welcome to Noise Floor, a podcast about music and our favorite artists' discographies. I'm Matt Kistler.
And I'm Troy Sennett.
And today we're continuing our series on Mitski with her 3rd album, Bury Me at Makeout Creek. This album came out on November 11th, 2014 on Double Whammy, and like very quickly had like multiple reissues. I guess not like very quickly for both reissues, but like shortly thereafter had a reissue through Don Giovanni, and then subsequently her current record label, Dead Oceans. This album is very different from her previous 2 albums, insofar that it is a like guitar album. Prior to writing this album, Mitski had picked up guitar somewhat out of necessity, insofar that, you know, it made it easier to tour if she just played guitar instead of piano, and kind of led to a kind of not 180 in sound, but definitely a huge shift in sound. So Troy, this is kind of where you became aware of Mitski, right? Was this album?
Yeah, I remember around, because this is sort of the end of college for me, I guess just after college. But I had been hearing about Mitski a little bit around this time, and then like around when she signed a Double Whammy, that was like a label that I had been aware of through sort of the DIY scene and stuff like that. I don't know if I had like a specific band that was on Double Whammy that I remember, but I just that name was coming up all the time, and this scene was kind of percolating as like, oh, here's where all the cool new stuff is. And so I remember hearing her name through that. I remember hearing probably a song or 2 off of this, although I won't lie and say I was like early on it or anything. I don't think I ever like went back to it until after Puberty 2 came out, because that was my real introduction to Mitski. It is, like you said, it's really cool to hear this album in the context of the 2 that came before it and where she goes after that, because it is like you said, it's the turning point. Sonically, it's the turning point from a classical artist sort of classical inspired artist turning into like you said, a sort of rock artist in a really interesting way. And it's a breakout. Like I think most people probably would think of this as her debut. She probably thinks of it as her sort of quote unquote like real debut record. It's the first one that has a physical release. It's the first one that I think is consistently still represented in her sort of her set list and stuff like that.
Definitely, yeah. It's very interesting to like kind of go from like I said, like the shift was like kind of done out of necessity, but like the recording process just like also totally changes because she's not at SUNY Purchase anymore, doesn't just like have access to a studio all the time, doesn't have access to an orchestra's worth of people anymore. So this was kind of assembled piecemeal over the course of, really only a little bit of time, but like definitely more disjointed in its assemblage than kind of the previous efforts had been. But it obviously, I think, ties together really, really well. Partially due to the fact that, you know, we have this kind of more limited sonic palette than we did, you know, with Lush and with Retired from Sad New Career in Business.
Yeah, and I think she talks about this in interviews, and you can hear it in the music, how this, like, having to work, a day job and to pay rent, and also, like, finishing up school, and this, like, exhaustion that comes with all that, while also trying to be a musician, trying to make a record, write songs, and play shows and stuff, is, like, I feel like you can hear it in the in the performances. Like it's a very it is kind of an exhausted record. It's a very frustrated record in a lot of ways, with whether that's with the relationships that she's writing about or just the general you get because thinking about the way that Class of 2013 ends the last record with this idea of like it's almost it's the anxiety of what are you going to do after college, and then this album is just like, wow, you actually just have to deal with it if you want to make music.
Right, yeah. And something she mentioned in one of the interviews, what I think it was when she was talking about writing Townie, she kind of talks about how in college she's like, I was just surrounded by contemporary classical douchebags. I don't give a fuck about atonality. Yeah. Like I just want to write a song with some chords. So like, I mean, in many ways, I'm sure that this is like kind of freeing in that way. But yeah, the just kind of exhaustion in general, and I think you're spot on. Like kind of, seeing it as an amalgamation of everything that is happening in this like kind of immediate post-college life, trying to put together a record while also working a day job, while also having to scrape together the resources to do what you want to do, while also figuring everything else out. Like it would exhaust anybody. But like some people don't get to make a record about it.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, it's in so many ways, like you said, it's an album born out of necessity, and it's like, I don't know. I think that probably has contributed to its enduring legacy, is that it is this sort of very like visceral document of this kind of generational angst, I guess. Like, but a microcosm of it. This like you have to do all this other stuff to make art, and that. Was true to an extent in previous generations, but is especially true now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we might talk about this a little more later, but it's so interesting to me reading and like watching all these interviews that occur around the time of release of this, because she records Puberty 2 in January of 2015.
Right, like after this comes out.
Yeah, and it's just openly like, yeah, no, I just finished the follow-up to that album, but like I'm taking this year to focus on touring this album, which obviously proves to be its own challenge. For anybody who doesn't know and has gotten to this point in the series, Mitski is a 20-something Asian American woman in the music scene, so she gets all the bullshit that comes with that. And like, frankly, I'm sure that like, I don't know how much that, kind of contributed to, I mean, I know it definitely contributed to this album in several ways, like specifically songs like Townie, and Drunk Walk Home. But like, she talks a lot about like while touring on this album and while touring like with a band, kind of running into just like your gear bros and your, just like hypothetically well-meaning dudes who like basically act like you don't know what you're doing, even though they paid money to come here to see you. Like it's just like, feels like she's getting all of the shit of the music industry, like right out the gate here after, putting out her first, like, wide release in a lot of ways. And that is horrifying. But she's very, very open about it, and I really appreciate that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and you bring up the interviews, and like there's a theme that comes up in a lot of the interviews, which is just like about her place in the scene as an Asian American woman, and she talks a lot about how she loves sort of being a sort of a positive representation and influence on young people who look up to her because of her identity, and she talks about like she loves that because she didn't have that growing up. And but at the same time, she talks about a lot about how like in her songwriting, that is not what she thinks about, that she's just trying to write these emotional songs as a person, not as an Asian woman, as whatever. Like, and I think that's such an interesting dichotomy, that she does kind of have to play both of these roles, and it has, I think, contributed to her success. Like, you can read the lyrics to her songs, and for the most part, they walk that line of specific and universal that's really effective.
Definitely, yeah. And like she kind of acknowledges in those same interviews, like, I know that like I I am writing from my perspective, and therefore it is like my life experience has been as the person that I am, and I know that everything that everything that I'm exposed to in the world is going to be informed by that. It's just not like top of mind for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like I think that kind of approach to songwriting is what lends itself to kind of this walking that line between specificity and universality that we're always talking about here, that works so well for her.
Yeah. Do you want to get into the songs? I don't know. Like I said, I don't feel like I have a lot of other like a big thesis on this album like I did about some of the other ones.
I mean, I think the big thesis on this album is that it's kind of continuing the story that we've established, on the previous two albums. It is about, coming into adulthood and what that means at this specific point in Mitski's life. And frankly, I'm going to tell you right now, that's probably going to be a theme for a lot of the discography.
Oh, yeah,
frankly,
for sure.
It's a rich trove.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So the album starts off with Texas Reznikov, a song that begins almost like a Mountain Goats song. It's a very lo-fi acoustic, almost sounds, you can hear like the hiss of the tape recorder in the background. But then explodes into this full band thing at the bridge with this little note of guitar feedback that anticipates everything coming in.
Yeah, it's such a, like, if you didn't know anything going into this album, you would not see that coming. And I can only imagine how mind-blowing that moment in the bridge, like right before the bridge, is for just somebody who does not have context coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, this is gonna start off with an acoustic song. That's cool. And then yeah, it like really grabs you right when it gets to that moment.
Yeah, it's really cool. This is famously the song where Mitski does say Texas is a landlocked state, which people on the internet got mad about, which is not shocking. And
I mean, it's like obviously a joke. Like, I don't know.
It's obviously a joke, but it also like speaks to like this specific feeling of like when you're someone who is like, she lived in, New York for a pretty large chunk of her life, and you're pretty near the water there. Like, imagine being suddenly in like one of the biggest states in this here union of ours, which does have water. It's just you're in Austin in the middle of it, and you can get there in like 5-6 hours, I want to say, would be my best guess. Maybe more than that. I don't know. But like it's very interesting to think about, like, sorry, this is stupid geography shit. But like, most other coastal states, like, no matter where you are in the state, you can get to the water like pretty quick, especially like places like California. But like, you're in the middle of Texas, like not even northern Texas, like it's just not going to happen for you.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also an element of Austin was for a long time, and to a degree still is, although it's become this like tech bro crypto haven now. Was like the sort of cool artsy, quote unquote liberal bastion in Austin, in Texas.
Yeah.
And so it is landlocked in its own weird little way, if you think about it in those terms.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I have you ever read any Reznikov? I have not.
No, I have not.
Okay, cool. Great. She does borrow a line from one of his poems here, which she said kind of like came to her as she was just like sitting in the driveway of like, I think her partner's house at the time. And just like the line, the tree shadows lie in black pools in the lawns, just like what was in front of her, just like immediately connected to that line. And then she ends up using it in this song, which I think is really cool. I need to read that poem Moonlit Night, cause it sounds sick. And from the kind of AV club where she talks about some of her non-music influences, it sounds like Reznikov has a very like specific way with words where he's able to convey these like really visceral images with very, very few words, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, and is, like you said, very much along the lines of her writing style.
Exactly, yeah. Like this song closes with this just like repeated "You're the breeze in my Austin nights," and like I've never been to Austin. I know exactly what that means.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, and I think there's an element too that is just, as I just read a little bit about Charles Reznikov, that it's, that his work explored the experiences of immigrants, and it is one of the primary themes, and like, makes sense that would resonate with someone who has moved all around the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
After that is Townie, which I think is like the number one with a bullet favorite song on this record, absolute highlight. This is like fuzzy, crunchy, punchy indie rock, just like a pure, like a total turn from most of the previous two albums. It's got this amazing slapback reverb on the vocals, really cool production courtesy of Patrick Hyland again. And just, I don't know, the song just rocks.
It really does. Like my first note on this song, beyond like some quotes from the interviews, is rock and roll, baby.
Oh yeah.
It's so rock and roll. Yeah, like this song I think has maybe the catchiest Mitski chorus we've gotten so far in her discography. Like not by like a long shot, but like by a pretty long shot. It's
Strawberry Blonde is up
regularly.
there, but this is close.
Strawberry Blonde is also up there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like starting it off with a line like "I want to love that falls as fast as a body from the balcony," alongside that really like incredibly catchy melody. It just like, how does that not get its hooks in you?
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, that whole chorus is awesome.
It is.
The whole song is sort of about this idea of like, I don't know I would call it, it's sort of coming of age, but this idea of like youthful rebellion that gets all mixed up in like how you come off to other people, and how these like young relationships, and how like sex and love factor into how you are growing into the person that you will be as an adult. It's very similar to this like cusp of something idea that was all around Retired from Sad.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I kind of, I think Mitski mentions like kind of her impetus for the song is kind of this idea of a girl who feels stuck and like knows she wants to rid herself of that feeling, but doesn't really know how to do it. Like she just kind of keeps filling the roles that she's already known. And that is definitely apparent in the lyrics here.
Yeah, it's that shift between the verses and the choruses, because the verses are like, you're right, you're this sort of sense of being stuck, and the choruses are this like, I'm going to, I'm not going to be what my daddy wants me to be. Like, I'm not going to fit into this mold that was there for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there a theremin in the bridge? Is that what that is? Like trading with the guitar, or like dueling with the guitar?
I wrote down that it was a synth, and I do wonder if it's a theremin, because it has that tonal quality, but it like the way it's played feels a little too precise between notes, I want to say. But it
Maybe
also
it's an
could
auto-tuned theremin or something.
Well, that's the thing is I think some of the like smaller Moog models of theremins are like they don't do like relative distance from the I don't know like what the parts of a theremin are called. Sorry.
The antenna. I don't know.
The antenna. Yeah, exactly. The antenna. Like it like it's like if you're like a certain distance away, you're playing this note, and then you move like an inch over, you're playing this note. Like there's less like what glide portamento. Yes, thank you. I fucking own so many synths, I should know that word. The one that starts with a P. But yeah, I think there's more portamento with like your average theremin, but there are some that like just don't do that, or there's like a setting that you can like switch to not make it do that. But either way, I love whatever is making that sound. I would love to have a little more insight into what that is, though.
Yeah, that stuck out to me as kind of the coolest sonic moment in the song that's full of cool stuff.
Definitely, yeah. And this song just like gets like super noisy for how catchy it is, and I just absolutely love that.
There are 2 music videos for the song. It was a single. One of these videos, it seems to have been generally like scrubbed from the internet. I found it on Reddit. Someone had reposted it. I
was kind of surprised that like, I mean, I can see why the final music video is the official one, but
the animated one.
Yeah. I kind of like the original one quite a bit. It has similar but like maybe better energy than the videos did from Retired from Sad New Career in Business.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It felt like along. I didn't look at if it was the same director or anything, but along the similar lines. And maybe that's why it was replaced with this animated video. That it was she wanted a cleaner break from what was going on the Retired from Sad years.
Yeah. But for anyone listening who hasn't seen it, I'd recommend seeking it out. It's a filmed CRT that's just kind of like cutting, between videos of like Mitski just like hanging out on a bed, like having streamers shot at her on occasion, which is, take that how you will. But it's a neat video, I think.
Yeah, it's a cool effect.
Yeah, and in weird ways has similar energy to the official video, which I guess makes sense because they're both based on the same song.
After that is First Love / Late Spring, which was the first single on this from this album. It feels like a weird first single, I think.
Yeah,
but this one starts off with a bass line and vocals, which actually I think she does a lot on this album.
There are so many bass intros on this album. It's kind of wild.
I mean, I think bass is like primarily what she plays live. I remember when I saw her. And it seemed like kind of how she was talking about this record too, that and it makes sense. Like it is, if she's sort of just starting on guitar around this time, that you can do the thing we talked about last week by like doing open tunings and stuff like that, but also like just playing bass is a great way to do it too.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this song is even more like jumping and falling imagery that ties back to Townie. I don't know. I think this is a very good song. I find I've grown into a tall child is a wonderful line.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's one of my favorite lines on this entire album, honestly. Just like it is such a simple concept, but it conveys so much of the feeling of being an adult who, is in a position where, who hasn't figured it out or
doesn't quite know how to be an adult despite being 25 years old.
Right, exactly, yeah. And like you contrast that with where does that line happen? Oh yeah, the beginning of the second verse. I was so young when I behaved 25, which like that is very specifically like a experience that a lot of women have, is that they have to mature faster than men do, just because that is what they have to do to navigate the world safely.
Yeah.
Like it is such a striking contrast with this idea of the tall child.
Yeah, and that line gets used, as like the title of feature pieces written about her around this time too, and it feels like the kind of defining lyric of this era of Mitski, I think.
I definitely agree with that. This is also the second time in the discog that we've gotten the use of Japanese in a song. We have that line that kind of equates to "my heart seems like it's going to burst" or "my chest is about to burst." And I love when she deploys that, because it really I love the fact that she's able to convey a feeling that maybe doesn't necessarily directly translate and otherwise might be a little lost.
Yeah, and it's also like it comes at a moment in the chorus when it's about like overwhelming emotion, and this idea to me that like, yeah, maybe one language isn't enough to express the depth of this feeling. Like I feel like it was a similar thing on Lush when she did that too.
For sure, yeah, and yeah, this chorus is just riddled with like this feeling of being on the precipice of maybe happiness, and like maybe not necessarily being afraid of that, but like just being so full of emotion that you're afraid of what happens, if it goes away, or if it's not what you expected it was going to be, or something along those lines.
Yeah, or like that lyric on the last song, like I just need a quiet place where I can scream. Like,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's an idea she goes back to a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
After that is Francis Forever, which is this song is really cool. I don't want to say I have like a problem with the mix of the song, but I feel like you can feel the DIY-ness of the album, especially here, where like the drums are mixed really low and the guitars and vocals feel like very like way too loud and too echoey in a way. I mean, it's like a choice, obviously. I'm not saying it's like poorly mixed, but it it sounds a little like I don't know, there's a grunginess to it that I feel like comes through more on this song than on other ones.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. And I think, yeah, in a way it feels like they were trying something and they landed on the thing that they tried was just what they shipped. And that's I'm fine with it in a lot of ways, but like, yeah, there's, we have just in terms of like choices that I noticed outside of what you've already mentioned, that second verse has so much reverb on the vocals, and it does not do that anywhere else on the song.
That's kind of what I was hearing, and but then there's production stuff in the song that I love. Like there's guitar leads in like the last chorus or the outro or whatever it is that like follow the vocals in a way that sounds like something like Weezer would do or something.
Yeah, and then like there's other lead lines that are kind of just overlapping those. It's really, really fucking cool.
Yeah, I like that part of the song a ton. There's a lot of, I guess I didn't even mention, so there's obviously like the late spring in the previous song is a seasonal thing, and then this has the line autumn comes when you're not yet done with summer passing by. So like there is this sort of mini progression of a year going on in the middle of this record that I really liked.
Yeah, that's really cool. I do love that, and somehow did not notice that myself, but I love it. Yeah, aside from what you've already mentioned, the only other things that I like want to point out is that I do love how the like we have yet another bass intro with like those kind of quiet drums. The guitar feels like it really slides in, like it like emerges from the bass line. It's like kind of a cool effect.
Yeah, it's kind of got the like this is a band playing off each other in a room feeling a little bit. Like it feels less composed than I think her stuff previously has, which it sounds like trite to say, but like for obvious reasons.
Right? Yeah. No. It was the moment as it turned out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like this song has a bunch of little builds, and they do feel like they pay off in the outro. But I think I would attribute that a little bit to this like kind of band in a room feeling that you get from the song as a whole.
Yeah, and then I mean, there's an acoustic demo of this that was released on a compilation, and I like a lot.
It's really good,
as much if not more than this full band version.
Yeah, like I was shocked. Like I usually like a demo, but just like again, it's one of those things that shows like how good of a song it is at its core. And then you kind of go whatever direction you want with production there. But like, yeah, I think where we started was very strong, and I think where we ended up is also very strong. But I do see what you mean with it, like, there's some inconsistencies that I don't understand the impetus behind. Yeah.
Where you at on the Ryan Hemsworth remix of this song?
So, okay, I don't hate it. That guy was signed to Saddle Creek as Quarter Life Crisis. Yes. That Quarter Life Crisis is Ryan Hemsworth, apparently. A band I have not listened to, but that's what his Wikipedia page says. I don't think this... I vaguely remember seeing... I'll have to check the spreadsheet that I found of rare Mitski songs, which I will find the username of the person on Reddit who posted this and give them an actual shout out. But shout out to whoever compiled all the rare Mitski songs. It was really helpful for this series. But one of the notes on one of the Ryan Hemsworth remixes, because there are more of them as we go down the discography, was nobody asked for this.
So is he someone that I guess is someone that Mitski is reaching out to specifically having do remixes like this, or do you know what the connection is or the origin of that I guess collaboration is?
I have no clue. I think it's possible that he is just a huge fan and probably asked her for stems. That's the impression that I get. Because, like, I will say this is one of the more interesting remixes that we've gotten in terms of just like its content. Like, it does not feel. It feels like a big experiment. And it does not feel like it's taking itself too seriously, which I like. But it is weird accompanying that with like the lyrical content of the song.
I listened all the way through it, which is more than I can say for a lot of remixes that we cover on this show.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of I'm kind of intrigued to see what his other stuff sounds like for her music.
I just have his Wikipedia up too, and I'm just looking at, like, it says he's collaborated with Francis Quinlan and with Claude, so like it totally makes sense that he would just be a fan.
Yeah, totally.
That's cool. I guess there's more to it than I sort of initially realized.
Yeah.
Next up is I Don't Smoke, which was the third single from the record. This is one where you can really hear this is a guitar song. Like, this is the loud open guitar chords, just a really heavy distorted amp sound, very grungy. It's most of the song is based around that. There's some drum machine stuff going on in there, but it's mostly the guitar stuff. But I feel like this was where I most noticed. I was like, oh, she just really has not changed her vocal delivery. She is just like adding it to, or putting it over in different contexts and getting interesting sounds and arrangements out of that.
Yeah, no, this is a straight up stoner metal song. Like, it's absolutely nuts. Like, I tried to go into this with kind of fresh ears, and I was like, if I didn't know that Mitski was going to start singing, I would have assumed that somebody was just going to go, ooh, or something like that to start off the track.
Oops, you're at a Bong Ripper show now.
Oh, no. I like some stoner metal, despite not being huge on the marijuana myself. I've listened to Dope Smoker all the way through once. Yeah. This song rules, and I think a lot of it is just Mitski kind of putting what she does best in this new context. Like, man, what a killer first line! I don't smoke except for when I'm missing you, to remember your mouth how it tasted true. Like, come on.
Yeah, and it develops the smoking thing into this sort of metaphor for codependency and toxic relationships and stuff too. So it's like it's starting off with this, I think, very literal image that then comes to represent this entire relationship.
Yeah, I was actually interested because like I had listened to this song a bunch before, especially since it's part of the like audio tree session. But I had never, like, given that I hadn't listened to Retired from Sad as much as I had listened to this record, I kind of see this as a interesting foil to Humpty, kind of a song that explores frailty in the narrator, whereas this one like is kind of the opposite situation, like being strong for someone who probably, and by probably I mean definitely, does not at all deserve it.
Yeah,
like it's an interesting like contrast to that song. Especially given that, clearly this situation is incredibly toxic.
After that is Jobless Monday, another song that starts off with a bass line, a pretty cool one, and a song about struggling to make ends meet and struggling to keep a relationship fresh and wanting like escape from the sort of drudgery of just day-to-day life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rough one in a lot of ways. Just the can't afford to buy my food or drive or the drive I need to go further than they'd said I'd go. Like, yeah, this real like that feels so autobiographical that it kind of hurts.
Oh yeah.
But I think the line that hit me like maybe the worst was I miss when we first met. He didn't know me yet. Like,
oh yeah. That's
Jesus.
The best line in the song.
It definitely is. I found like we could just kind of talked about how Mitski doesn't like often change her vocal delivery. I think on this one, and obviously like even more obviously Drunk Walk Home, the vocals have this like kind of trippy and languid quality to them, and I don't know if it's just like butting up against the way that the instruments are on this song, but it felt kind of novel to me in terms of like what we've heard so far.
Yeah, I can hear that a little bit. I will admit, like outside of that one line that I really like, this is kind of my least favorite song on the album.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's anything to do with the delivery or what it is, or just kind of its place in the album. But you know what? I have to ask another instrument question. Is the solo in this played on an automaton?
That's a great question, Troy, and I don't know.
Because it really sounds like it to me, and like
it kind of does.
That's the the wonder. It would be so wonderful if this very kind of dire song is punctuated with a smiling, happy automaton.
I know, right? Yeah, I just wrote down that it was a synth, but now that you're saying that out loud, I can
an automaton
totally hear
is a synth.
It is a synth. I have one of those lying around.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard to play.
Yeah, and then it does end on this huge discordant piano hit, which is kind of cool too.
That does rule. Yeah, there are really great parts of the song, but I totally see it being kind of a not a low point, but a lower point.
Yeah. After that is Drunk Walk Home, which is this is kind of the most, I would say, unique sounding song on the record. This is where the song is this very percussive, first verse. It's just this kind of smacking a floor tom or something.
Yes.
That kind of slowly builds and piles on more and more layers as the song goes on with feedback. And it's sort of applause samples that are in there or something and manipulated in some way. And there's so much noise and stuff. This is a cool song, a very haunting, short set of lyrics that then culminates with this incredible screaming part.
I've listened to this song more than any other song on this album, by far. And I think I think that is driven partially by there was at one point, I think somebody made a 10 minutes of Mitski screaming compilation video, and it's just looping the last half of this song. Everything about this song just feels so different from everything else we've heard. The just kind of drum ostinato that's happening, the entire song is just so I don't even know, man. And then we start out again, fewer lyrics than I think any other song on this record. Start off talking about how you're going to retire to the Salton Sea, which is just an enormous, effectively garbage patch. Not garbage patch, but a very polluted
body of water.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. And then you get to the fuck you and your money. I'm tired of your money. And you're okay, something wild is going to happen here. And then you get the second verse and then you get the back half of the song, and it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's the defiance coupled with the realizing that by being kind of maybe a defiant person by nature, what opportunities you might be giving up. And that's just yet another thing that people as they grow up have to come to terms with.
Yeah, and sometimes when you introspect on that, you just have to scream.
Yeah. And I think the idea of see the dark in this is that comes back later in the record too, I think, in a really potent way.
It definitely does. I do have to share the little story about the screaming part real quick, which is apparently Mitski kind of went for it on a first take, but was kind of holding back because she didn't want to hurt her voice, which is very understandable given how many people have ruined their voice doing exactly this. And then it didn't quite work, and Patrick was like, well, okay, why don't I give it a shot, see what I can do? And he did it, and Mitski just kind of went, I'm not going to fucking let you win. I'm going to do it again. And then we got what is on the record, and it's absolutely incredible. I listen to a lot of screamy music, and I feel like the only other time that I've heard just this kind of really, really wordless, kind of primal in a way screaming work this well is on Stars by Glassjaw, which is a wild comparison, but I'm gonna make it nonetheless.
Well, I was gonna say it's on the Cesalo record that was my favorite.
Yes, okay, yes,
exactly. A year or two
exactly.
ago. That was because that's when Rocky Votolato is literally undergoing scream therapy and just puts that on the record.
Yes, yeah. Oh my god, I don't know how I didn't come up with that line either. Yeah, shit.
But Glassjaw's a good comp too. That is definitely that's definitely in the aesthetic of those records.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up is I Will, which was I guess there were a lot of singles from this record. This was the fourth single that was released. But But this one she considers a love song, but about written like as the things she'd want to hear from someone else, which makes it kind of like a very lonely love song in a way. But it's once again built around a bass line and a pretty straightforward drum beat, but that has lots of cool synths and organs and stuff that come in and punctuate the verses.
Yeah, it is wild to come out of a song like Drunk Walk Home and immediately be met with I will take good care of you. And like just kind of like immediately just resets you into this like more comfortable place. But yeah, like you said, as the song goes on, it becomes this kind of lonely love song because of, the nature of what it's about.
Yeah, and especially in this like this idea, I love the chorus in the song, the say with me, hold my hand, there's no need to be brave, and while you sleep I'll be scared, so by the time you wake I'll be brave. Like I don't know, just I think that kind of like sort of ability to rely on another person is so powerful.
Yeah, it's really great. And I love how the chorus like kind of forms over the course of the song, which is to say we get like kind of a half chorus towards the beginning, and then towards the end we get the full chorus that you just went through. And like, yeah, like getting to that. So by the time you wake, I'll be brave, and then ending on I'll be brave, as if you have to convince yourself of that is it's really strong songwriting, honestly.
Yeah.
Shocking,
really
coming
is.
from Mitski, I know.
Yep. No, it's a really good one.
Yeah.
And then, the album takes yet another like basically emotional 180 to get to Carry Me Out, which is, I mean, this is like a sort of a very atmospheric arrangement, a lot of like interesting ambient stuff, but it's what really gets me about the song is all the visual imagery, this idea of like standing on the roof, I untie my hair, I watch as my dark hair unleashes the night. I find all this imagery so interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really great. I really love the like very specific imagery, and like we've had moments like that on this record before, but like, yeah, I think it's really, it really stands out here. Like specifically that as my dark hair unleashes the night, like that is it's like a surreal image that I can absolutely 100% picture without much effort at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think of it almost cinematically, like you could imagine like, hair like growing to consume the entire screen, the entire like city, the image, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What do you read the song as being about?
That's a really great question. In a weird way, I don't know. Where are you at with this one?
I have this like strong sense that this song is structured as like a call for help, like a contemplating self-harm or suicide, and that the like say your name and hopes you'll hear it in the stars and carry me out. Like I feel like that is that's how I interpret that section. And then this bridge that is like the headlight spirits lead me down the sticks. I mean that is about death.
That sure is.
Yeah, and so black it shines. Like there's this idea of blackness and darkness that is like all engulfing and encompassing and is like attractive in its own way. And like I don't know, that was my read on the song. I don't know if I'm going way too deep into it or not, but that is at least how I took it.
No, I don't think you're going too deep at all. I think I just tend to avoid trying to think, or I try to avoid thinking about songs that way, because that seems to be an interpretation of the next song as well, that I absolutely don't buy, and mostly just don't want to buy, even though it's pretty valid. So
yeah, I didn't think if we can get into Last Words of a Shooting Star, the closing track, but I think of that song as about death, but not about suicide.
Right. No, I read this song pretty fucking literally, and I don't feel weird about that at all.
That it's literally as in that it is just the last words of someone or last thoughts of someone dying in a plane crash.
No, I think it is the quote unquote last thoughts of someone who thinks they're going to die in a plane crash.
Oh, okay. So you just see it as like a panic attack, basically.
Yeah, effectively.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've had this moment. I've 100% had this moment. Not specifically about whether or not my room was clean, but I feel like I feel the feeling.
Yeah. Okay. No, I definitely took it as more of an at this velocity than as
Sure.
because we're a song that was Thursday. Wrote about it is a plane crash that very near actual plane crash.
Right.
And I took this one as, and she even talks about how this is sort of a bunch of different ideas stitched together. And that she talks about, I don't remember the poet that she cited, but who would like just cut stuff up out of newspapers and assemble it into poems, which is like this kind of interesting way of creating the essence of an idea from a bunch of different specific little things. It also feels very Weaker Than Z, very John K. Samson-esque. And so, yeah, I don't know. I took the sort of frame of the song this is just about a plane crash. I didn't think of it in terms of the sort of anxiety angle of it, but I like that too.
Yeah, and that might be projection a little bit for me. And speaking of projection, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the cut up stuff.
Oh yeah.
So she specific. Yeah, the poet you were trying to remember is John Giorno, who I don't know anything by him, but who he got the cut up technique from was William S. Burroughs. A writer that I have many mixed feelings about.
I read Naked Lunch on my honeymoon, which is one of the most insane sentences I could probably imagine anyone, much less myself, saying.
Good Lord. Yeah, that is insane. I read Naked Lunch the summer after my freshman year in college because I did a summer program where I like worked with a professor on a project. And he like tasked both me and one other student with like reading some Burroughs because like we were like getting into like I think the like overall idea was like how far can we go with like fucking with copyright law? Because the final project that I did was to attempt to assemble a history of copyright, like a brief history of copyright. Probably should have been longer than it ended up being, but I had a hard time with it. Exclusively out of quotes from other books. So
that's cool.
Like it was cool. I wish I'd taken it a little more seriously. But yeah, as preparation for that, I read Junkie and then I read Naked Lunch, and kind of enjoyed Junkie and absolutely fucking hated Naked Lunch.
Okay, sorry I took us on a big Burroughs digression.
No, it's fine. I was going to go on that rant anyway.
Okay.
But I do think kind of like applying the cut up method to just kind of life experiences in general is a really like interesting way of approaching songwriting, is like noticing the patterns that emerge from just talking about these disparate points in your life. And like I've never thought about writing something that way, outside of like doing literal cut up stuff. And I think it's really, really cool that like that kind of resulted in this, and also just is like a cool thought exercise just independent of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also reminiscent of the cinematic technique of like having or even just the idea of like having a life flash before your eyes as you're dying. Like I feel like that's almost like too simple of an explanation of this song, but it does fit with everything that's in it.
It definitely does. Kind of sonically, I do love that we kind of like have bookends on this album, because this song also starts off with tape hiss and a like clean acoustic guitar. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that's a neat touch, even if it like doesn't necessarily thematically need to happen. Like it works for me.
Yeah, I like it a lot as a bookend as well. I mean, I think it's a very strong closing track. The other thing I wanted to bring up is this Liberty Bell image that's in the song. The idea is the Liberty Bell is a replica silently housed in its original walls, and while its dreams played music in the night, quietly it was told to believe. Which I just think is a really interesting expression of the idea that comes up a lot in these last couple of Mitski records of the idea that like the dream of artistic expression, of being able to make that your whether it's your job or just to be able to do that throughout your life, it is sort of at odds with the version of yourself that you need to, or, you know, this version of yourself that you need to project outward if you want to, like, you know, have money or be quote unquote successful or whatever.
Yeah, like the mask as like a facsimile of the self or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, a much better way to put that than whatever I just said.
That was the most fucking like hoity-toity thing I've ever said on this podcast, and I don't apologize for it.
Regardless, I think it's a great part of a great song.
Yeah. Something that kind of ties back into the cut up thing. I really like that this album kind of as a whole has been a very like chorus heavy album. Like it's marked by a lot of repetition, and that's kind of part of the goal of the album was to get away from like any of the lingering contemporary classical bullshit and just like write simple good songs.
Just rock and roll songs.
Yeah, rock and roll songs. I like that this song kind of like moves a little bit away from that, in that like it takes these like disparate but thematically tied moments and makes them into the choruses, like instead of just having a straight up chorus the way that a lot of the other songs do. I think that's really a really neat thing to do, and like it all ties back to kind of the technique used to write this song, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, just in general about this album, like I feel like it comes sort of not the beginning, but like I feel like right after this, there were just tons and tons of, whether or not they were imitators or not, I think this sort of DIY, sort of not quite grungy, but like, you know, pretty, fuzzy indie rock stuff became like the most popular thing at least in the sort of, you know, I don't know what you call it, underground indie scene for a while. And like, I feel like, I mean, I'm sure this record was an influence on tons and tons and tons of artists that came up around this time or shortly after this. I don't love a lot of that music.
Right. Sure.
And so I was actually kind of surprised to find how much I like this record with that in mind, knowing that it influenced a lot of stuff that I don't really care that much about.
Yeah, I found kind of the trajectory of that kind of like subgenre of indie to be interesting, because like it like started really swelling in popularity around, and maybe it's just always been like kind of popular in like college radio scenes and shit like that, but like I remember like towards the end of college for me, you were getting bands like Waves like doing this very like reverbed out, washy, fuzzy thing.
Yeah, well, in a way, it's like the 20-year nostalgia cycle for, you know, a Dinosaur Jr. or Built to Spill or whatever. Like, I feel like that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. Or, you know, Pixies having another round of renewed interest or something like that.
Totally. Or bands that sound like Deftones being a thing now.
Well, right. Yeah. Now it's 90s, like alt, or like early 2000s alt rock and stuff like that. Yeah. Or sometimes, like the Deftones is literally like a band that was there is just now big again.
Yeah, it felt like it was such a short like life cycle. Like it kind of crested in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and then just like around this time like started coming up again, and then just exploded not long after this album, presumably because of this album.
Yeah, or I mean, I think this is certainly one of them. There were others too, but like the thing that I remember hearing a lot of this stuff seep into the emo that I was really into. And so like Run for Cover and Top Shelf started picking up a lot of bands that sounded like this. And like Tiger's Jaw is the one that just sticks out in my mind as like a band that started doing stuff more like, they have a couple records that sound a little more like this. And then it felt like the scene kind of followed them there. And there's like a couple early Tiger's Jaw records I'm just totally out on because I just don't like that sound.
Sure.
And then I feel like, but you know, and so like I said, I was a little bit surprised to find that this Mitski record feels like it's doing something a little more unique, a little more memorable. And I think it's so much on that she's just such a talented vocalist and such a talented writer of melodies and lyrics that like the songwriting is able to transcend even if I don't, you know, if musically it's not always what I'm looking for.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. Yeah, I don't know. Man, I should go re-listen to that new Tiger's Jaw record. It's so good.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah, it's awesome.
Just speaking of.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything? Do you have any other final thoughts on Bury Me at Makeout Creek?
No, I just like I feel like I'm surprised I haven't spent more time with this record leading up to now, because like this I am way more of a sucker for that like kind of fuzzy indie rock sound. Like I was, the reason I bring up Waves is I was very into Waves at the end of college. Me and my buddy Christian did a song that sounded very much like this kind of thing. Back in like 2012, and I kind of wish that project had done more stuff before he moved away, but it happens sometimes. I don't know. I think this record is really, really great, and like kind of learning about, how it came to be has given me a new appreciation for it, and like a maybe deeper understanding of why it is the way it is.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a random recommendation for this week?
I do, and I'm going to recommend the newest album from New Mirrors, a three-piece screamo band from LA, who were not on my radar at all until their most recent release, which came out last Friday as we're recording this a couple weeks ago as you're listening to this. I don't have a lot to say about it, just like they're doing classic screamo really, really well, which is something I always welcome, just as screamo goes in many, many directions over, as it has over the last 25-ish years that it's been a thing. I guess probably closer to 30 at this point, ish. I don't know. They put out an album, Directions. I've only given it one listen, but I was immediately like, oh yeah, this is 100% my shit.
Yeah, that's what I don't know that band. I need to check that out.
I'd recommend it, but I am recommending it. You know what I meant. I
Yes,
think
I
you
do.
specifically should listen to it.
Okay, I will.
What you got?
I am gonna recommend the. Is it weird to call this a classic now? I guess it is almost 15 years old.
No.
Transcendental Youth by the Mountain Goats. I think this has usurped Beat the Champ as my favorite Mountain Goats record. It is, I think, darn near perfect. Just everything that I love about the Mountain Goats happens somewhere on this album, and it is just an absolute delight. Don't know what else to say about it, but that you should listen to it. I know you have listened to it many times, but you, the listener, should listen to it.
During the period of my life where I was almost literally only listening to the Mountain Goats, this was probably my favorite, and I think it's changed about 8 times since then. But it's a banger front to back.
Yeah, I've told the story on this podcast before about how one of the first times I specifically remember hanging out with you, I mentioned that I had never heard this record, and you told me that I needed to listen to it immediately.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I told you that.
part of our origin story.
There you go.
Until we do the Pianos Become the Teeth series and we can tell our true origin story.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right. Which we're gonna hold off on so people keep listening. And
Yep.
Just kidding. You all should just listen. We're having a lot of fun here.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back next week to discuss Puberty 2. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpodcast. Find us on the internet at Find us on the internet at noisefloorpodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at noisefloorpod, and send us emails at noisefloorpodcast@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.